Our topic today is reason versus intuition. Swami Ananda, when he came to his guru, considered himself overly intellectual, and his guru decided to teach him a lesson. And Yoganandaji invited him into the room, and he showed him a toy pistol. And with a lot of drama and excitement, Yoganandaji shot the pistol into the air, and from the pistol came this little man in a parachute, and he floated down to the floor. And Kriyanandaji was a little puzzled. He thought, here's my guru, here's this wise teacher that I look up to. Why is he playing with toys? And then Yoganandaji quoted from the Bible. He said, "Suffer the little children to come unto me, for of such is the kingdom of God." The story is that Jesus was having satsang, and some parents were starting to bring up their children to him so that he could touch them and bless them. And the disciples said, "No, don't bother Jesus now." But Jesus responded, and he said, "No, let the children come. Don't stop them, because one must become childlike, like these little children, if you want to enter the kingdom of heaven." He said, "Truly anyone who does not receive the kingdom of God like a little child will never enter it." And for us to feel the kingdom of God within, we must do so with the openness and the simplicity of a child. That we need to become more simple and childlike in our devotion. Yoganandaji called intuition the soul's power to know God. And we can't know God with the intellect, with the mind. And what are some ways that we can become more childlike? What are ways that we can develop this intuition? Above all, meditation. When we've enjoyed a special meal, we don't want to jump up and run out. We want to sit for a while. We want to enjoy the aftertaste. We want to digest a little bit. And the same with meditation. When we practice a technique like Kriya Yoga or Hong Sa, instead of jumping right up and getting on with our day's activity, we want to sit in the silence. We want to enjoy that peace. And Yoganandaji said that this is the time that we develop intuition, and this is how we develop it, by deepening and prolonging as much as possible the peaceful after effects that we gain from practicing the meditation techniques. And secondly, we also want to be willing to act on intuition. Saint Francis was praying. He felt the inner inspiration to follow the example of Christ in his own life. And he was praying in a little chapel that had fallen down. It was just ruins, but there was a cross, a crucifix there, and he was praying to the image of Jesus in front of him and asking for a direction in his life. And Jesus said to him, "Go and rebuild my church, Francis, which you can see has fallen into ruin." And very naturally, Francis thought that Christ was talking about this little stone chapel, San Damiano it was called, and he was so happy to have a direction. And so in the winter, he would haul stones, he would start rebuilding this church, and a few of the other young men saw him do that, and they saw such joy and determination that Francis had that they started to join him. And then little by little, what Francis and his followers were doing were not just rebuilding that church, but really rebuilding the whole Christian church, which at that time had fallen into corruption, and most people had lost their faith. And that was what Christ really had in mind. And indeed, Francis really did, in his life, make that transformation worldwide for people. And why didn't Christ just tell him straight out that was what he wanted him to do? Maybe Francis would have been overwhelmed. But the important thing is that, Francis started acting on inspiration, and the more that he acted, even though he didn't know the big plan, the more God flowed through him, the more his intuition became developed more and more. I remember when I was with Swami Kriyananda just a year or two, and in my life came some choice I had to make. Do this or do this. I don't even remember what it was. It wasn't that important, but it was important enough that I was just in a quandary. I could easily have done one or the other, but not deciding, it's like that indecision paralyzed my will. I didn't do anything. I was confused, and I asked Swamiji for direction. And his response to me was, manifest action. Choose either one, but just do something. Get the energy moving, and then the guidance, the intuition can flow after that. Just take one step in front of another. And so it is with many decisions in life that we don't know the final step. We're not going to know for a long time, but we do know the first step, and that's the one that we have to take. If we want the direction to come, if we want inspiration, if we want guidance, we need to be willing to act. And also the intellect can be fooled, but true intuition, this childlike openness in the heart, can see truth. There's the fairy tale that we know of the emperor's new clothes, and where these two con men convince the emperor that they're going to make clothing out of thread so fine that if somebody's stupid or incompetent, they're going to see it as invisible. The thread is so fine. And so this day comes for the king to put on his new clothes, and these con men pretend to dress him, and then he goes out in procession, and everyone knows that they're not going to say anything because they don't want to appear to be stupid or not worthy of their position in the court. But then a child says, "Why is the emperor not wearing any clothes?" It's like that childlike, innocence saw right to the truth and expressed the truth. And this is how we need to become, to balance the intellect. And also with intuition, often solutions come in ways that we least expect. When I first visited Ananda village, they had started construction on a large building. It was the largest building so far. And Swamiji had a design in his mind as to how it should be. It was built on a hillside. He wanted a curved roof, and he wanted it curved in two directions. It was a very complex roof, but it was such a prominent area, he thought it would just be perfect in that location. And he had talked to a couple of architects, but they couldn't give him exactly how that roof could be built in a practical and economical way. And so he thought, well, the instructions, they built the roof. And later I met the man. He became friends, and we visited him where he lived. And the lesson here is that the more we look within, and with openness, with childlike receptivity, the more we allow that intuition to flow, the more we're open to inner guidance, and the more solutions will come from the divine. Thank you.
Well, there's nothing wrong with reason and logic. We need to use it to get by in this world. We live in a world of matter on the physical plane, and we have our 5 senses that help us get around and help us with our thought process and our reasoning process. So we need to do this to function in this world. But the only problem with just thought, just reason, is that it only takes us so far. If we want to expand our consciousness or perceive other realities other than this physical plane, then the rational mind does not allow us to go there. It often just blocks our progress if we want to go in that direction. And whereas normally I use the analogy of the beam and the movie screen, I'm going to change analogies today. And I heard Nayaswami Jyotish talking about a video game recently. And so let's just say that we choose a character in a video game, a role, and we start playing that game. And, it can be very, very interesting. I choose this role, this is what I want to be, and then we play it, and it's fun, and we play it again, and now I'm going to do it better, and now I'm going to do it better again. And it's so interesting, so many things can happen to us in that game. And, it is an analogy for our lives. From the astral world somewhere we have chosen, this is going to be where I'm born. This is where I'm going to learn my lessons. This is where I'm going to be able to evolve as a soul. And so we use our reason and our thought process and, try to get good at the game, and all these things happen. But at some point, after a long time, it's like, this game is boring. I'd just like to get out now. And, we somehow find that we can't get out. We just keep playing the same game over and over again, and we may get very, very good at it. But still, we're not getting out of the game. And so that's sort of where our normal thought, conscious mind process will take us. It can't take us out of the game. Whereas if we attune to our soul consciousness, it can help us perceive directly other realities. And that is the intuition that comes to us. As we say, it's born of meditation. And so if we stay in this role of the ego or of this character that we have chosen, it will always be limited. And the masters come to show us how to get out of the game. And just as Yoganandaji was speaking in this talk about dreams, Yogananda told us that God gave us dreams to help us understand how God created this video game, this big cosmic video game. And at night, when we sleep, we have our 5 senses in the dream. We can feel things, we can taste things, we can see, we can hear, and it's all seeming so real to us. And yet, when we wake up in the morning, suddenly our sense organs take over. In the dream, we have our senses, but not our sense organs. And when we wake up in the morning, suddenly we feel the bed, we feel the fan, and we say, oh, that wasn't real. That dream just wasn't real. But what was it then? It was another reality. We are in the astral world during our dream state. But when we come back to this world, we said, no, this is the only reality. This is true reality right here. And so how many times have masters told us we have to wake up from the dream? This isn't the only dream. This isn't the true reality. These five senses, your rational thinking, has got you so trapped in the video game that you can't get out, that you can't see that there's another reality. And so we try to wake up. Master's given us like, oh my saint, wake yet, wake. Oh my saint wants us to wake up. Swami gave us, Mother, awake us from our dreams. We're dreaming and we're dreaming. So what did we do? One of the things the masters give us in order to get out of the dream is tells us how to get away from these sense organs that convince us that this dream is so real. So they tell us, all our senses that say, this is what's happening, let's try to cut off the sense telephones. That's what meditation is. When we can withdraw the energy from the five senses, withdraw it from the periphery of the body into our center, and direct that energy up to the perception of another reality at the spiritual eye. That's when we can start to cut off the sense telephones and unplug the power that's going to the game. It's in a sense we want to get to the point where it's game over. We want to unplug that. And how do we unplug the senses? Meditation. Meditation. And so, as Keshava was saying also, when we get to that stillness in meditation, to that peace in meditation, to that inner contentment that we know is our true self, we start to experience and remember where we really came from. We are not this character in the game. We are not this character on the movie screen. And the problem with the rational mind is that it totally believes it is that character. It is completely convinced that this is who I am. And the soul, when we can perceive the awareness of the soul and receive that intuition, says, that's actually not who I really am. Balaram, the boy who works here, his family is here in Delhi. He comes here 6 days a week. And if you say, where do you live? He's probably say, I live in Delhi. But where are you from? I'm from Bengal. He never forgets where he's from. His mom is there, his father is there. He never forgets where he's from. But we tend to forget where we're from. We have come from God, and we will merge back into God. But this game has us so convinced that I am this character, and we just incarnate again and again because we believe it. And I'm just going to try to get better at the game, so I'll come back again. And not to say that the game cannot be very interesting. It can be very interesting, and it's one of the reasons why we keep coming back, because we enjoy it so much. But at some point, after maybe 1,000,000 times of playing it, Yoganandaji said, we will experience this anguishing monotony. Things happen. We lose our health. Someone close to us dies. We suffer, and we get tired of suffering. Or Yogananda says, actually, what helps us get out of the game even more is when all of our desires have been fulfilled. And then we're just bored. And we say, there must be something more than this game that I'm playing. How can I get to the game over button? And that's why the masters come. They come and show us exactly how to hit the game over button. And so when we meditate and we can commune with that stillness, we commune with that peace, that joy, we have that smriti, we have that memory. I remember where I'm from. I remember who I am. And then we open ourselves like a child to receive that guidance, that intuition, that connection with God. And if we can take that peace with us out to the day, that doorway to intuition, to divine guidance stays with us all day long. So we don't just jump up, we take that peace with us. And in India, we're so lucky that the prevalent belief of this culture is that we came from God and we will return from God. The wave of the sea that's come from the sea will return to the sea. The Creator has become the creation, and we are one with the Creator. The Creator and the creation are one. And so really our perception of who we really are just needs to expand beyond rational thought, use our intuition, and remember who we really are. In the Bible, you remember the story where Jesus Christ asked his disciples, "Who do you think I am?" And Peter, the disciple, says, "You're the living Son of God." And Jesus says to Peter, "You have not learned this through your rational mind. You have received this through intuition." I'm paraphrasing. "You have received this through intuition. And it's on this intuition that I want to build my work." And when Swami Kriyananda was with Yogananda in the ashram, Yogananda came up to Swamiji and said, "If you only knew my consciousness, if you only knew my consciousness." That's our job. What is his consciousness? And it's just like Christ is asking us, who am I spiritually? Yogananda is saying, try to perceive who I am spiritually. If you can perceive that, then you also will remember who you are. Because you're not going to get it through rational thought. You're going to only get it with an open heart of a child. And an open consciousness attuned to my infinite consciousness. So that's what the Master does. They say, attune yourself with me, and I will open the doorway and allow you to experience your own infinite consciousness. So the wave of the sea becomes the ocean. And they lead us to the ocean. And so that's what we do in our meditation, in our attunement to God, to Guru. We just say, please help us get beyond the mind and open our heart, remember where we come from, and help us, please, become spiritually mature enough to want to and understand that our dharma, that our destiny is to get out of the game, not just to make the game more and more fun and more interesting, but to get out and to really remember who we are, because only then can we really and truly serve our families, our friends, and this world that needs so much help. So they come to tell us how to do that. Game over. God bless you.